I am usually a pretty laid-back person. I try not to let things upset me. I enjoy laughing and having a lot of fun. However, for about a year, I've been having intense anxiety and depression. Little things have made me very emotional and extremely sad. It often felt as though every decision I had to make was a life or death situation. Panic radiated through my body. It constantly felt as though there was an elephant on my chest. It was hard to breathe. I felt like I just wanted to run. I just wanted to scream. But there was no escape. I researched the topic of anxiety and depression and tried to pinpoint what may be causing my unrest. The internet was full of suggestions. Breathe deeply. Meditate. Get enough sleep. Eat healthy. I tried all these things, but nothing worked. I absolutely hate prescription medication, but I was becoming desperate. Maybe I just needed some medicine to help me relax and be in a cheerful mood. I thought long and hard if I should bring up my anxiety and depression to my doctor. As a side note, for many years I've been accused of having anxiety, depression, and panic attacks. I have a medical condition called postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, which is often abbreviated as POTS. With this condition, my heart races, my chest hurts, and it becomes very difficult to breathe. These symptoms often mirror a panic attack. When I would express my sadness about having these POTS episodes, which drastically changed my life, I was told I had depression. And thus, before being given the diagnosis of POTS, I was erroneously told by numerous doctors that I had anxiety and depression. So going to a doctor and actually admitting I had anxiety and depression seemed like a terrible thing to do. To have anxiety and depression written on my chart as diagnoses seemed like a sure way to get my doctors to dismiss all my future symptoms. With all this in mind, I continued on. Week after week and month after month, the anxiety and depression grew worse and worse. I kept hoping and praying an answer for my symptoms would be found. Once a year, I have various vitamins and minerals measured in my blood. This is done to ensure I'm getting proper nutrition from my IV nutrition called TPN. These tests include vitamin A, vitamin E, selenium, zinc, copper, and manganese. If any one of these values are low, my dietitian makes adjustments to my TPN formula to compensate for any deficiencies. One test, which always frustrated me, was my manganese results. It never gave a lab value. It just said my results were less than 2.5 and the normal value was less than 2.5. So my results were normal. I was always dissatisfied with this lab result because it did not state if I might be deficient in manganese. Finally, the last time I had extensive blood work done, by some miracle, instead of the usual reading of saying my manganese levels were less than 2.5, the lab actually gave me a value. It stated my manganese level was 5. Normal levels for manganese range from 8 to 18.7. I was stunned and flabbergasted. Wow, my manganese level was quite low. I immediately went online to research this topic. Manganese is a trace mineral essential to life. It is required for normal growth, development, and function of our bodies. It serves as an essential component of many enzymes. The enzymes play a role in energy production in the mitochondria, brain development and function, digestion, fat, protein, and sugar metabolism, antioxidant defense, immune response, etc. Unfortunately, there is very little information about having a manganese deficiency. The only thing which almost every website stated was, for the most part, manganese deficiency is considered rare in most developed nations where malnourishment is often not a problem. Also, in most cases, Humans can maintain stable tissue levels of manganese because the body can closely monitor the manganese it stores through absorption and excretion. However, after doing a little bit more research, I discovered manganese deficiency is becoming a more common problem due to the increased consumption of foods made with processed flour, which can result in low manganese levels, as the manganese content of processed flour is much lower than that of whole grain flour. A growing number of healthcare professionals who are focused on holistic medicine are starting to see patients develop manganese deficiencies. Holistic medicine providers often test for manganese levels on general health lab work and have discovered more and more people with manganese deficiencies. One such holistic provider, Ms. Julian Levy, has noted manganese helps prevent osteoporosis while at the same time increasing cognitive function. She writes that a percentage of the body's manganese exists in the synaptic vesicles within the brain. Manganese is released into the synaptic cleft of the brain and affects synaptic neurotransmission. Thus, manganese deficiency can make people more prone to mental illness, mood changes, learning disabilities, and even epilepsy. With all this in mind, I began wondering if my anxiety and depression were caused by low manganese levels. I researched how much manganese to consume. The general opinion was to take no more than 9 to 11 milligrams per day. I then began my search to find a manganese supplement. The place where I buy most of my supplements from is a company called Swanson Vitamins. I typed manganese at the top of the page. The results showed I only had a few selections to choose from. There were only 3 supplements available with the recommended 10 milligrams of manganese. Although I like Swanson Vitamins as a company, I do not like the ingredients in their pills. I also do not like Source Naturals. So the only selection left was Bluebonnet Nutrition. I clicked to add the bottle to my cart and checked out. A few days later, my package arrived. I immediately opened it up and took 1 manganese pill. I hoped I would instantly feel better, but I did not. For the next 2 days, I took 1 manganese pill a day. I did not feel a change. On the 4th day, I suddenly realized the intense anxiety I had was gone. The depression I had was also gone. I was not convinced if supplementing with manganese was helping or if it was a coincidence. 2 months later, I went on a cruise. I continued taking the manganese every day. However, when returning home, I placed the manganese in my suitcase. Upon arriving home, I did not unpack my suitcase, and I forgot to take my manganese. After 3 days, I began feeling very anxious. I wanted to scream due to the chaos I was experiencing. I then realized I had not taken my manganese in several days. I immediately took a manganese pill. It took 3 days, but the anxiety and depression once again disappeared. I then became convinced it was indeed my manganese deficiency which was causing my depression and anxiety. As a side note, my dietitian called me several weeks after my lab work was resulted. She saw my manganese level was very low, but she told me that was nothing to be concerned about. In 1 year, she will recheck my manganese levels with more blood work. In the weeks since I started taking manganese, I have reached out to the mitochondrial disease community, and I found out manganese is stored in the mitochondria. Having a manganese deficiency is very common in people with mitochondrial disease. Many people who have a mitochondrial disease need to supplement with manganese because their bodies cannot properly store it. I have mitochondrial disease, and this is most likely why I have a manganese deficiency. Thank you so much for joining me. Please remember to like and subscribe down below. Please also remember to share and comment. It really helps my channel. I hope you have a great day and a wonderful week. Bye-bye.